Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
All right, welcome back. Now, our next talking point refers to an article that was in the Daily Mail, which I found intriguing, where a 24-year-old, Eleanor Brown, is starting a 3-year jail term after taking revenge against a woman for having an affair with her dad. You can see there's a bit of a theme to tonight's show, can't you? Don't blame me for that, by the way. There's a bit of a theme to tonight's show. So anyway, her dad, Jeff Brown, began a fling with a woman about 12 years ago. And the affair ended, and they thought it had been buried by time. But it came back to haunt them in 2022, and Eleanor came into possession of some explicit images and videos they had shared together. She obviously found them on her father's phone. She used the photos to shame her dad's mistress by setting up a fake sex worker account on an escort site. So basically, she found her dad was cheating. She had found images on his phone of the mistress, took the images, set up a fake profile on a website, for hookers, and put the girl or the woman's picture up as, I'm a hooker and this is what I do. The number of the woman's husband was included in the ad, leading to 14 texts, 8 calls, all from prospective clients in the space of a half an hour of it being posted. So in other words, loads of people thought genuinely she's a hooker, and they started sending her messages saying, how much do you charge? In a victim statement, the former mistress, who can't be identified for legal reasons, said, if you've ever felt so upset you were constantly nauseous and anxious, you will know how I felt. Now remember, of course, I'm not defending the actions of this girl who went to jail, but this is a woman who's just cheated with a married man. And yet she says, that how upset she felt, she was constantly nauseous, anxious, and that's how she felt. I'm sure she felt more anxious than that cheating with a married man, but however, don't get me wrong, it must have been an awful thing for the woman. There's no doubt about that, to have her pictures put up, her naked pictures put up on a website. But do you think 3 years was a bit much of a sentence to be handed down to a 24-year-old who had her life turned upside down by this woman's sexually deviant behaviour in the first place? I suppose that's the moral question, isn't it? Do you think maybe community service would have sufficed as a punishment enough? I'm not saying what she did wasn't wrong. Of course it was wrong. And it's against Irish law as well. It's called revenge porn. No matter what way you do it. Although I think revenge porn in Ireland, as far as I know, it can only be a spouse. As far as I know, and maybe I'll check that out, it can only be a spouse or partner. Anyway. But do you think community service would have sufficed as a punishment enough? Or was the judge right to send her to jail for 3 years? It's a stiff sentence. You look at this country, there are people who are brought before judges for child porn images, and they don't get 3 years, they get 6 months suspended sentence. There are guys, or indeed maybe girls, brought to court for rape who don't get 3 years in this country. 3 years for putting a picture up online that she shouldn't have. It was a reactive thing to do. It was a stupid thing to do, nonetheless, but it was a reactive thing to do. I'm sure she has regrets. She did say she regretted doing it. She said, I did it in the moment because I was so angry at my father for cheating on my mother. But was the judge right to put her in jail for 3 years? Let me know what you think. The number is 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. I hope you've got the whole gist of the story. Now, John, hi, how are you?
Good evening, Niall. How are you keeping? I'm just listening to this now. 3 years is very stiff, but I suppose this type of stuff needs, other people are doing way, way worse and getting away with nothing. But I suppose they got to try and knock this and in the bud, I don't know, you're really you could be destroying somebody's life. However, if her father or whatever was messing around, it's still putting it on using an escort site and whatever goes with that.
Don't get confused. The mistress doesn't use a website. The daughter put the pictures up on a website.
Yeah, she didn't use the website, so the daughter kind of put it on the website. 3 years is harsh, but saying that there's a lot of other crimes that aren't harsh enough. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people getting away with a lot less sentences for things that are a lot worse. But, yeah, she'll probably be out in a year and a half. Year and a half.
Well, I don't know about that. She may or she may not be. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me. There's no one going to justify what she did. What she did was wrong on every level because two wrongs don't make a right. And yeah, she deserved a slap on the hand. Yeah, she deserved. And I'm sure the girl, the mistress, I'm sure she was pissed off, and I'm sure she was embarrassed and humiliated by what she had done. But 3 years does seem like a lot, doesn't it?
3 years is an awful lot. I wouldn't. I think it's. First of all, I thought, well, 3 years, but now the more I think about it, because I'm only thinking about this the last 5 minutes, 3 years is kind of a bit of a ridiculous thing when you can have people robbing cars and burglaries and they don't and attacking people and they don't even get half that. So yeah, 3 years. 3 years for a crime like that is a lot,
Okay, well, stay there for a second. Let me just go to Martin as well on this if I can. Martin, hi, how are you?
I'm well now. Good evening.
Good evening, Martin. A bit of a theme to tonight's show in some sense, I suppose, when you think about it, because, cheating is a very common thing nowadays, unfortunately. But, I mean, the guy was wrong to do what he did on his wife and his daughters. It turned he had 3 daughters, as far as I know. It turned all their lives upside down over a 10-year period, probably, because he said it had stopped 10 years previous, but then they found the images, so it was still going on. And the daughter obviously, reacted and overreacted.
Yeah, I do think 3 years was excessive. But I'm curious as to, there's not a lot of information about what action did this girl take against the father? I think the betrayal and the hurt was far more grievous on the part of the father.
Mm-hmm.
And yet she went after the father's mistress. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't get that. I mean, I'm not for a moment suggesting that people should go after the father. I'm kind of confused as to if I felt that hurt, I would be more inclined to go after the father.
Well, women are different to men in that women might go after the mistress because they refer to them as home wreckers. You know what I mean? Because they would know the mistress knows he's married. You know what I mean? So, like, they consider them and they use that term, home wrecker. You know what I mean? So women think about these things differently to men. Men would immediately blame their own wife. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure most men, if they found out their wife was cheating with another guy, they'd want to go out and knock his block off. You know what I mean? But in saying that, they'd react differently. I think we all reacted a little bit differently. Now, as I said already, what she did was terrible. I mean, in a sense that she took these images from his phone, naked images, and set up a profile on a prostitution website.
Yeah, I get what you're saying now, but I still think it's. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm entirely off center here, but I think she's, her actions are kind of, she was looking through. I think she has a kind of a moral myopia, if you take my meaning, in that, she wasn't seeing things certainly not the way if I had gone through something like that when in my formative years, and then years later I found out that he was still carrying on and what have you, I'd be more inclined to go after my father or my mother. God forbid, it never would have happened. But if it had, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that brought the hurt into the home.
Yeah, I get you.
It gets back to the conversation you had earlier on. Not all men are cheats. That's a myth. You hear this thing time and time and time again. I'll just recount something very quickly to you. I remember, it's well over 20 years ago, but when my wife and I were together, and together very happily, on Valentine's Day, out of nowhere I received a text from a number that I didn't recognise, and it was apparently a woman, a girl, a female who didn't announce her name or anything like that, but was expressing undying love for me, and it wasn't fair, and why wasn't I with her, and all this kind of. Now, I didn't react to it. There was a text that came in. I thought, that's really weird. And when I got home that night, I said it to my wife. I said, you'll never believe the text I got today. Have a look at this. And she looked at it, and she went into hysterics of laughter. And she said, "That was me, you fool." I said, that's not your number. She said, "No, I was using," and I won't say who. It turns out it was a guy. She was using his phone. She was with a group of people, and they thought it'd be hysterically funny to send this to me. I was furiously angry, absolutely furiously angry. Not because I regarded it as a test, but because I regarded it as an encroachment and an infringement on my rights and my feelings, insofar as if and I'd be honest, I was kind of thinking, this can't be real, nobody's going to fancy me that much. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, there's all kinds of people in the world, and am I out there dealing with some female that I don't know that she has these feelings about?
Yeah.
How careful do I now have to be around every woman I meet? I was absolutely furious over it, really was. I know other people would say I'd get over it, but for me, I found it deeply insulting.
I can understand why you would find that insulting. Absolutely, because most guys in that situation would say, okay, I should tell my wife about this. This is the right thing to do. But then again, some might say, look, I'll just delete it, and be done with it. And then is that not the right thing to do? So I understand the quandary that puts you in, and then that feeling that you think there's somebody out there who's almost like a stalker, that there's somebody out there, you know what I mean? So I can understand how that could upset you.
I wouldn't have just deleted it and said nothing because, the stance.
No, I'm just saying, neither would I, but I'm just saying, guys, there are guys out there that would.
I'm putting it out there. I'm letting her know that, I have nothing to do with this. I didn't reply. I didn't anything. And she went into hysterics of laughter. And I was deeply hurt.
Yeah,
and
you didn't think it was funny. Yeah.
I didn't think it was funny.
Getting back to this, because I don't want to go off this topic too much, but in relation to this particular girl, right, she did the wrong thing. She went after the woman instead of going after her own father, and because he is ultimately responsible, because he's the one who's her father and having the affair on the mother. But that's what she did, and we can't reverse time. So she comes before a judge. If you were the judge in that case, Martin, how would you react to that?
I certainly wouldn't have reacted with a 3-year prison sentence. Mm-hmm. I think I would have demanded that she make a public apology, that she make
a level of compensation,
maybe financial recompense to the woman in question,
mm-hmm.
and that she do community service of some kind. And I'm not talking about picking up litter or I'm talking about something of real value, working with children that have been abused. Or
a women's shelter. A women's shelter. Or
I'm talking about practical work. Not that counselling is not practical, but if she's not qualified as a counsellor, I certainly wouldn't set her into that area of it. But you'll go in, you'll do paperwork, you'll help. I think there'd be far more benefit would come from doing something like that than putting a woman into prison for 3 years. It's not going to make the victim feel any better. It's not going to make her father feel any better. He's going to think, well, if I hadn't done this in the first place, she wouldn't be in that situation. I mean, I think it's a horrendous decision by a judge who, in my opinion, has lost the plot, to be honest with you now. I really think he's lost the plot. I would never defend anyone doing such a thing.
By the way, just mentioned about losing the plot. Tonight, the government passed the hate speech legislation.
Yeah.
I don't know whether people noticed this or knew about this or not, but I looked at a picture earlier on from the Dáil, which come on a Oireachtas Twitter account or whatever it was. There was like 7 TDs in the Dáil. And I by the way, obviously I wasn't there when the bill passed, so that happened probably about a half an hour ago, whatever. So I obviously can't see at the moment how many people were actually there when the vote happened, or if a vote, there was a vote, I think, when it happened. So I would ask that people go online and verify how many people were in the Dáil at the time, but don't take my word for it. I only saw what I saw at 9 o'clock when it was being discussed initially. And it looked like about 7 or 8 TDs. And if that is the case, I think it's despicable. Matty McGrath was there. Fair play to you, Matty. Helen McEntee and Roderick O'Gorman were there, obviously, because this is their baby.
Usual suspects.
Yeah, and there was a couple of other TDs there. I couldn't recognise in the picture because the picture was at a distance, the back camera. But every other seat was empty. And I would implore people to have a look, see who's there. They're the ones who care about your freedoms. They're the ones who care, right? The ones that were there, be it on whatever side, they're the ones that care. So what I'm saying is, I just found it despicable. And it's gone through tonight anyway. So it'll be signed by the President. And now I know they did remove some elements of the hate speech, which was the incitement to hatred part of it, I think, but they left in the gender part, the gender ideology part, which was the part that was concerning for a lot of people, where they've literally redefined legally gender in Ireland has been redefined. And that's what Senator Ronan Mullins was talking about today in the Oireachtas, that they've redefined what gender actually is. In other words, gender can be anything you want it to be now. Gender isn't just male and female according to Irish law, because now it's written in statute books in Irish law. Anyway, look, I'll leave it at that. We'll talk about it again.
Sorry, Niall, they still haven't given an actual definition of hate.
No.
I mean, it's a smorgasbord. Pick whatever you want, and that can be defined as hate. I mean, this is typical. As I said on a few occasions, I think the vast majority of the politicians in Dáil Éireann, I think they're morally bankrupt, spineless individuals.
Well, they've also misinformed the general public, because only 2 months ago, the general public were told by government they would not be bringing in the hate speech laws in this term of government. And now they just squeezed it in before they left, literally.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
It's gone through, and it'll be signed by the President, and it'll be in law from whenever, I don't know. It'll probably be signed put through tomorrow, maybe the next day, I don't know. Anyway, I'll give you more information on it tomorrow, because I haven't read the whole thing yet. I haven't had a chance, obviously, because I've been on air, but I will give you a load. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow night or something like that. Okay, getting back to this particular story. You think, Martin, that was outrageous. Margaret, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall.
Good.
Well, I was watching the Dáil all day.
Okay.
And the hate bill. And you're right, 7 or 8 when it was going on with Helen McEntee. And Mattie McGrath absolutely tore strips out of Helen McEntee. And she sat laughing at the man with her head down into her chest. I thought it was a disgrace. You know, she's a young girl and he's an older man, and he made valid points, and she was there sniggering at him and laughing. And they seem to think that Mattie McGrath is an owl Aegis. Because
he's not. He's a very clever man.
No, this is what I'm going to say, Niall, that any time the man gets up, he makes very valid points in what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. You know, and she was sniggering and laughing. And then when it came to the vote...
78 to 50, I think, wasn't it?
No. Yes, 70 and 52 no.
Oh, 52 no, sorry. Yeah.
And
50, I think it's 50, actually. I'm just looking here, yeah. 78 ta, 50 nil, or Neil.
Well, I have it down here now from the Dáil, and it was 70 yes and 52 no. And before that went, he said, how come you're not doing the full hate bill?
Okay, now, can I clarify, when the vote went on, okay, so I want to just clarify this for people, because I don't want to misinform people. A lot of them must have been in the Dáil, but weren't in the chambers during the debate itself, and Mattie McGrath was there. But for the vote, it seems like a fairly full house.
Yeah. But look, anyway, and the assistant dying thing then was 76 to 53. And the affordable housing, which is a disgrace, the government votes 71 to 59 no. You know, to make more affordable housing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the backing of the horses and the greyhounds, 110 yes to 19.
Oh, you would know that, wouldn't you? Anyway, because most of them probably own horses.
Anyway, the public heads bill.
Okay, well, look, we'll come back to all that tomorrow night. I am going to come back to a lot of that stuff tomorrow night, as I said, because I've been on the air. I haven't been able to read up about it. And thanks for informing us all. But yeah, just to clarify for people, the hate speech bill went through 78 to 50. And just to clarify again, although there was very few people there for the debate, as I mentioned earlier on, it was empty. There was only about 7 or 8 people there. When the vote came, it does look like there was a fairly full house. This is the Criminal Justice Incitement of Violence and Hatred of Hate Offences Bill 2022. There was a full house there. When I say a full house, quarter full anyway. Yeah.
Can I just say one thing, Niall? In the hate bill, they put in about colour and gender and all this kind of thing, you know, and that's incitement to hate. But what about me as an Irish woman, or you as an Irish man, and somebody of colour comes up to you and says to you, you white Irish trash?
Well, I would I would like to think that would be covered under hate if you were beaten up or something like that. That would come under hate crime. By the way, I don't agree with the hate crime. I believe if you're assaulted, you're assaulted. You should go to jail. People shouldn't go to jail for longer just because you happen to be part of a minority or you happen to be called a name before you were beaten up or something like that. That means that some people's lives are worth more than others, and I don't agree with it. Anyway, look, we'll talk about it in more detail tomorrow. Margaret, getting back to the 3 years for this woman.
Now, getting back to this lady and finding the phone that her father and seeing what she saw on it. Well, I tell you one thing, Niall. If that was my father, I would do 10 times worse than what that girl did.
I agree.
I would do 10 times worse than what that girl did. I would put it up in a capture in the paper for sale, contact, whatever. I put it on anything I could on the mobile phone, available 24/7.
But then you go to jail, Margaret. It's illegal.
Look, Niall, it is ridiculous, and I don't know who or what judge done what he done.
But just to point out, because I obviously have to be responsible for the way I deal with this, it is illegal in Ireland to do that too. Since last year, there's legislation there.
Oh, sorry, no,
Niall. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Margaret.
Yeah, sorry, Margaret. I said I agree there because I kind of preempted what you were about to say. But are you saying that if it was your father, you would hold his mistress entirely responsible, that as far as you're concerned, the father was entrapped or whatever? Like, to what degree would you hold the father responsible?
No, it takes two to tango, right?
Exactly.
First of all, okay? But she was, I'm presuming, a younger woman. I'm presuming this with a question mark behind it. And then who was videotaping what was going on?
No, what happened was the daughter, he had an affair with this woman some time ago, 10 years ago. And the family had thought it was all behind them, you know, that he wasn't with her anymore and he promised he wouldn't do it again. And then the daughter, at 23 years of age, obviously 10 years later, she would have been 13 or 14 initially when it turned the family upside down. The daughter, when she was 23, found pictures on his phone. Of that she had obviously sent him. Of herself in the nip.
The girl.
Yeah.
The girl
the mistress.
Sent the father photographs.
Yeah. And the daughter found it on his phone, took the photographs, put them up on a website and said, available for sex.
Yeah, well, look, she's a dirty bitch and, you know, she should have went to jail. That's as far as I'm concerned, because she had it on her phone and that's illegal. And she sent it to the father. You know, I mean, like, there's loads of legal, like, you know.
So you're saying she did nothing wrong. You do exactly the same, is what you're telling me.
I would, Niall, and I would put it in the papers, and I would put it on every Twitter and any other thing that I could that she's available.
Niall.
Yeah. Sorry, Margaret. Okay. Yeah. By the way, just before I go to Margaret, just to clarify, Margaret was actually correct. The final vote, the picture I got there was just before the end of the vote. The final vote was 78-52. You were correct, Margaret. Yeah, sorry, Martin, go on. You wanted to ask Margaret something? Go on.
Yeah, sorry, I'd just like to, Margaret said now, and I'm not advocating for it. I think anyone who puts any kind of intimate images of themselves anywhere out there in the ether is an idiot. But the father and the mistress were consenting adults, so it's not actually illegal. But I still haven't heard from Margaret. What action would she have taken against her father? I'm still wondering, you know, Margaret says it takes two to tango, and yes, it does. But the mistress is not the one who pledged to love, honour and respect the wife in this circumstance, and by virtue of that, his children. He did. So, Margaret, what action would you have done, or what conversation would you have had with your father if the same thing had happened?
I think it would have said, you know, I think when my father's passed away, you know, and my mother as well. But anyway, look, if it was my father, and I would say to him, you know, Dad, I'm not happy what you're doing. It's hurting Mum. You know, it's really hurting her. Do you realise the hurt that you've caused, not alone to your wife, but to your children.
You don't seem as angry
You
with him,
realise.
but you don't seem quite as angry with him as you do with the mistress.
No. I would sit down and talk to him.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in getting hysterical.
But you
Right?
get,
Because you won't get
but
any-
hang on.
But-
Yeah, but hang on a minute.
I would
A
say
minute
to
ago,
him,
no, Margaret, stop for a
I
second.
would think,
You're getting hysterical with the
say to him,
mistress.
get your stuff and fuck off down the road to your woman and stay there. Don't come back.
Yeah, you'd say that if you were the wife, I suppose. You can't say that if you're the daughter. You can't throw him out of the house if you're the daughter. But here's the thing. You'd say you'd sit down and have a chat with him. But yet when we talked about the mistress, the first thing you were doing was putting her picture up everywhere.
Yeah, well, I would, yeah.
So you got a bit
She's
hysterical
dirty old
there.
bitch.
Well, whatever
Yeah,
you
well,
think.
I mean, look, put a beggar on horseback and they'll ride to hell. And she's a rider. Now, it's as simple as that.
Put a beggar on horseback and then ride to hell. I've never heard that
Yes.
before. Okay.
Oh, Niall, that's well known.
I've never
Will you
heard that one
stop?
before. I'll have to use that one. I get it wrong, but I'm sure I
Yeah.
get it wrong.
Yeah, put a beggar on horseback and they'll ride to hell.
Stay there for a second, Martin and Margaret. Neve, I'm going to have to just leave you for 2 minutes because I have to take a quick break. The number is 087 188 0008. Loads of people, by the way, texting in now with the hate speech, but we will get around to talking about it, I promise. Obviously, because I've been on the air, I haven't been watching it. Everybody's still texting in about the hate crime. By the way, somebody says, "No, is that not just a hate crime bill?" No, it's the full bill. They just changed or amended the speech aspect of it slightly. It's the Criminal Justice Incitement to Violence and Hatred and Hate Offences Bill 2022, which has been passed to the Dáil, probably signed by the President tomorrow. It'll be enacted before the weekend, I imagine. And the biggest problem with the bill, I spoke to Ronan Mullins about it. Now, I know Ronan Mullins obviously has his own bias, but I spoke to Ronan Mullins. I'll try and get him on the show tomorrow night. As far as he was concerned, wasn't just the aspect of speech or taking away free speech or whatever, that it was the fact for the first time in Irish law, we're actually putting on a statute book the definition of gender or defining gender as something other than male and female. And that was his concern. Anyway, look, we'll talk about it tomorrow night because, as I said, it's as it's happening right now. Obviously, I can't really report on it because I'm doing the show. We're talking to you lot. Neve, hi, how are you doing?
Hey, Niall, how are you?
Good, Neve. Okay, getting back to this 3-year sentence for a girl, 23 years of age, who found explicit images of a mistress on her father's phone. She decided to set up a profile and put them on a sex worker site, to embarrass her, humiliate her. And it was taken down after a very brief time. Actually, it was only up for about an hour. But in that hour, there was 14 clients or prospective clients text the woman saying how much, etc., etc. So she was humiliated. And the judge gave her a 3-year sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Was it warranted?
Yeah, I'm with Martin on this. She went after the wrong person. The person she's hurt at is her father. The easy target is the mistress. So what she should have been doing was having a very, very, very tough conversation with her father, saying, if you don't tell my mother, I will. And pack your bags and get ready for her to put you out.
Well, I think the mother knew about it. I think the mother was kind of nearly in on the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and so are the other 2 daughters, but this one is the one that done it, I suppose. Yeah.
I think, I know it was only up for an hour, but let's say it wasn't. So say it hadn't been noticed and she didn't get those phone calls for 3 or 4 or 5 days. That sort of stuff can lose people their jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they were.
Oh, no, I agree. It was wrong. Very wrong.
Herself and the father, the mistress and the father, are morally bankrupt for what they did. But this girl could have been facing a lot more charges. People have done the ultimate over things like this. They've taken their own lives over things like this. Their lives are destroyed over stuff like this. The mistress was wrong, as was the father, but Martin nailed it. The father made the vows. The father made the promises. The mistress promised nobody anything. She probably isn't a very nice person if she's capable of doing this. But it seems the father got off scot-free. That's my issue on this. And the mistress could have potentially had her entire life destroyed. She shouldn't have slept with a married man. That's the basic. But I just don't think this was warranted. It was very cruel, and there's a really good reason why it's illegal. It's an awful thing to do to somebody.
Absolutely. I said that from the very outset. What she did was wrong. But here you go. Was 3 years a bit much? Was Martin right in saying, look, I would have made her pay compensation, gave her a suspended sentence, maybe put her in community service, Was 3 years a bit much in jail? I've seen people getting less time for doing worse things.
I think it was. And I think in the UK they have like stock standard sentencing for this. So I think what needs to happen is every case needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis. In this case, she probably is exhibiting remorse. She's sorry in the heat of the moment, blah, blah, blah. Now, it wasn't the heat of the moment.
Margaret said she'd do the same thing. Margaret said she'd do the same thing. She'd put his name or put the mistress up in the newspaper and everything. She didn't care.
A
lot of people would think that in the heat of the moment, but would they actually do it?
Margaret, would you actually do it? That's
I would, yeah. Definitely.
I don't think that any slapper that sleeps with a married man is worth your freedom, Margaret. They're not worth it.
Pardon?
Any slapper that sleeps with a married man isn't worth
person. You know,
but she's not worth your freedom.
A £1 million house out of prostitution in London. She's probably one of these professionals, you know.
But how do you know that? You're making...
living the high life. You know?
You're making accusations about the woman you don't even know.
Well, I've seen programmes on television about it, you know.
This man,
that's the saying I'm saying, Niall, to you, is you put a beggar on horseback and they ride to hell.
Yeah, sorry, Margaret, you want to say something to Margaret there with our cliches. Go on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've already addressed, you know, what I see as the shortfalls in Margaret's argument. And I would normally agree on most things with Margaret. But I would just like to say, congratulations, Niamh. You've put it forward in a far more eloquent way than I ever could, and a far more understandable way than I ever could. I'm just lost as to why this girl, she's obviously tech savvy enough to be able to post things and what have you. Why didn't you just start a Facebook page or whatever? I don't do any of that, but I'm just I don't know what way it works. Why didn't you just start a Facebook page, you know, cheating fathers?
And there's pages for that already. She doesn't need to start one. There's plenty of them.
Well, okay. Well, I don't get why she didn't just. You know, why didn't she just do that? And then there's no defamation. There's no nothing because it's factual. I'm lost as to why she turned all her ire, anger, and hatred towards the woman. I'm not saying she should throw bouquets at the woman. I'm lost as to why she would turn so viciously against the woman involved. And I'm not saying she gave the father a free pass, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of, you know, to me, it doesn't seem fair, to be honest.
Okay. Well, stay there for a second. Let me just bring Stephen into the conversation as well. Stephen, hi, how are you?
Hi, not too bad.
Good, Stephen. Stephen, was 3 years a bit more? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we should all condemn what is a horrible, horrible thing to do to somebody. I understand the circumstances behind it, and some people can react badly to those situations, particularly when a family is turned upside down by cheating. But was 3 years a bit much?
I'm not entirely sure what the kind of, as one of your callers was saying about stock sentencing for what effectively is revenge porn. I just went, I was kind of going looking for it. Absolutely, it should be the dad in this situation should be, you know, named and shamed and subjected to the public scrutiny as well, obviously. But do I think it was an overreaction? Possibly slightly, but I could understand why she did it. But I think she went the wrong way around it. As I said, the dad should have been the bigger target, but maybe I'm reading something in the Telegraph about like she knew the mistress and hadn't liked her for most of her life, apparently.
Yeah, this had happened 10 years previous. Yeah. It seemed to have been going on for quite some time.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, there's a whole massive backstory, and at the end of the day, what she did was as much premeditated as, you know, it was more premeditated than a crime of passion, for the want of a better term. So I think 3 years in that respect, like this is the first time I'm hearing about it and reading about it, but I think 3 years is about right, really, for what she did because of the obvious reputational damage that this is going to do to the woman who has, you know, slept with her father, which she should not have done in the first place, but it takes two to tango.
I would agree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are you saying exactly for Margaret? You said you'd do the same thing.
Because it does take two to tango.
Yeah, I know.
It does. But your woman
but Margaret,
is a dirty
doing something
bitch.
to this. So,
woman's a dirty
yeah, but
bitch.
so is the father, and doing something like this is enough to destroy a person's reputation and their lives.
But the father has caused irreparable damage to his family, to his wife and his children. And the girl was so annoyed and upset. And then your woman sending the pictures to the father and the daughter finding them. She's a dirty bitch. That's all she is. And I think
the woman who
judge
slept
was
with her or the
too
daughter?
hard.
The mistress she's talking about.
The mistress.
The
Yeah, no,
mistress.
okay, just it. Yeah.
Sending the
completely,
photographs to the
absolutely.
father. Absolutely
Yeah.
disgraceful.
But sorry, Niamh, I just want to go back to you on it. I mean, what you're saying. Men and women react to these things differently, right? And, you know, for a daughter of a father, you know, she looks at the woman involved as a home wrecker, isn't that the word they kind of use, right? Particularly somebody who knows that they're involved with a married man. So that's why she kind of took it out on her, I imagine, because she believed she was the home wrecker and turned, you know, the whole family's life upside down. Yes, she knows it was her father that did it, but that this woman gave him the opportunity to do that, knowing that he had a family. So I suppose that's why she reacted maybe in the way she reacted. Now, I know what Stephen is saying, it's premeditated, and it is premeditated. You have to sit down and think about it. There's planning goes into that.
You were saying it was a spur of the moment, heat of the moment thing, but it doesn't sound like that if the other sisters and the mother were also involved. They were sitting down chatting about this. They were organising this. This is organised. And at the end of the day, if it hadn't been, to use Margaret's term, hadn't been this dirty bitch, it would have been another dirty bitch because the father is a cheat.
There's not dirty bitches going on tonight. Yeah, go.
And he would have cheated with another person. So I just don't believe that anyone who is low enough to sleep with a married man is worth my freedom. They're not actually worth my bloody time, let alone my freedom. I'm not doing 3 years so that some slapper can go out and have a load more affairs with a load of other married men while I'm languishing in jail, having no affairs with no one.
And this is the thing that everybody must consider. We talked about this tonight, actually. We mentioned revenge porn the other night and how dangerous it can be and how horrible of a thing it is to do to somebody. No matter how badly or how much you dislike somebody, it is a terrible thing to do to somebody. And it should never be done. And to remind people again, it is illegal. It's illegal here in Ireland as well. Since last year, the legislation, I think it was last year, the year before, was brought in. But Stephen, even Niamh said she thought 3 years was a bit steep.
Yeah, again, I'm not up on the British criminal sentencing systems, but for something that is premeditated, for something that, by the sounds of things, again, I'm only literally hearing the story in the last 10 minutes.
It says that the number of the woman's husband was also included in the ad. So obviously the mistress's husband, leading to 14 texts, 8 calls from prospective clients in the space of a half an hour of it being posted, right? So I'm assuming it was taken down very quickly, right? So it obviously only a half an hour of it being posted. So it was only up for a half an hour or so. There would be a huge amount of reputational damage in a half an hour. Enough, but not a huge amount, I would imagine.
Enough, though, but because it's obviously then the mistress's husband, the mistress's family, his family, any children that are involved in that family. This is not just the A and the B victim people here and the perpetrator. This is a much, much wider circle. It's all of the daughter's family. It's all of the mistress's family. Yeah. If I was a judge and this was the standard sentence, I would have imposed it.
And you wouldn't consider what Martin had said earlier on, which what I thought was reasonable, was a suspended sentence with community service, working, say, in a women's refuge, 6 months.
Yeah.
And a full public apology and a compensatory fine. In other words, €10,000 compensation and a full public apology.
There is an argument for that, but at the same point, if this lady is not able to afford, say, a €5,000 or a €10,000 fine, and it's going to take X amount of years to garner it out of the judge and things like that.
The judge can impose a compensatory fine. The judge can turn around and say, you have 3 months to pay, you go to jail. Simple as.
Yeah. Look,
people find money, don't worry. They'll find 10,000 in 3 months if they're going to go to jail.
If they have to go to, well, this is it.
Yeah.
I don't know. If there was a way and there was kind of enough remorse shown, then yes. But by the sounds of things, there was no remorse in any of this. And as I said, it is premeditated. And if the other family members are involved in it, then there isn't much that community service is going to do to make this woman feel remorseful.
I got the impression from the article that the family members knew about it, but whether they were involved in it, It's hard to know because I think if they would have all been facing some time in jail. So I don't think they were directly involved, but certainly may have had knowledge of it. Let me just go to Jerry as well. Jerry, hi, how are you?
Not too bad, no, not too bad at all.
Good. Jerry, was the judge right to put the woman in jail for 3 years?
Absolutely not, Niall. I mean, it was a reaction to the absolutely despicable episode by our father, and I know. I think British justice is just getting worse. We've seen a case there the other day. Actually, it was last night you were talking about the Soylent Prayer, and he got 6 months as well, and a massive fine.
Well, yeah, 9,000 fine and 6 months suspended sentence for having a silent prayer outside an abortion in a safe zone.
So British justice, and when we have the same problem with some of the judges here, I mean, it's just gone crazy. I mean, the whole.
But she did break the law. The law. I mean, it's a pretty good law, Jerry. You know that. You can't have people, nowadays with mobile phones, people have intimate images of their partners. You know, it's kind of common in relationships or intimate relationships nowadays. You can't have people, you know, when the relationship breaks down, going and posting them online just to humiliate you. So they brought in a law called revenge porn. It's a good law. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's a good law in certain circumstances. I mean, all we ever hear...
It's a good law in all circumstances, I think, isn't it?
In every circumstance, to be fair.
I mean, it is a good law, but all we ever hear, and I'm looking at some of the cases, I'm not going to mention any of the case, but every single case in Ireland, we always hear in the judge, what's the mitigation circumstances? She had a lot of mitigation there, the reason why she did it, and that's why I think the 3 years was excessive. And in a normal case, revenge porn, definitely, they should be hung out to dry. In this particular case, there was a lot of mitigation circumstances. So certainly don't think she served the 3 years. She should have gotten, like what one of your previous callers said, maybe community service and working, like what you said, like a disability or
homeless shelter, whatever, and then a compensation to the woman in question for.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the judge is making a decision all the time, both here in England, on mitigation circumstances, and this was certainly mitigation. It was a moment of anger, and I don't blame her. And I said that the father's getting away scot-free.
I suppose, Stephen, it's like, you know, you come home and you find your wife in bed with another man, you know, and the first thing you do, he jumps up out of the bed in a panic and you punch him in the head, right? And he brings you to court for assault. The judge would probably look at that and go, you're in bed with his wife, in fairness. You know what I mean?
You're in bed with his wife. Technically, you're trespassing.
Well, no, you're not trespassing. You're not. So you
had the wife's permission.
But the assault is an assault. But most judges would lould look at that and go, mitigating circumstance.
It is a mitigating circumstance.
Yeah, it's crime of passion.
I don't know what the mitigating circumstances would be compelling enough to have not sentenced her.
Because she was 13 when this started happening 10 years ago. So you can imagine the emotional scars that it's left on the family when it turned the family upside down, and they thought it was all over. They thought it had all gone away, and then all of a sudden, you know, she finds these pictures on her father's phone. I don't know how she came to be in possession of those sexual images, but she did anyway.
Yeah, but do we know how old those images are? Like, are they from the affair or are they recent?
No,
I actually don't know. Is the answer to that question, Steve?
If they're recent, then that's understandable. It's like this has been going on, possibly, potentially, if they're recent images. If they're 10 years old images and she happened to find them in her dad's phone, that's kind of not enough justification for it to be a crime of fucking passion.
No, but the point I was making is...
This woman is not going to serve 3 years anyway. She'll be out in a year and a half, less.
Probably.
You know.
Maybe, yeah. Well, the way Keir Starmer's going releasing people from jail at the moment, she'll be out in 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the pictures in some of the papers of all the criminals outside the jails? Mad.
The other problem here is, I mean, and in the courts, and it's got a lot to do with the mitigation. This is why you have mitigation circumstances. Like, we have plenty of laws in this country, plenty of laws in England, but we don't have justice. So people do things, and in some cases, they're justified in doing it, but because there's a stupid law there, and if you deploy the law to everything, I mean, half the country will be locked up. So there's going to be, as I say, the mitigating circumstances. And we don't know whether that lady, the mistress, sent the photographs to the husband.
No, she did send it to the husband, obviously, yeah, because he had them on his phone, obviously.
No, but he could have taken them.
Maybe he could have, yeah. He could have.
Yeah, he could have taken them. So we're not sure whether she sent them to him to wherever it was to arouse him, or whether he took them himself and had them on his phone. So we don't know whether she's responsible for it. I know
it'd be pretty hard to take pictures and videos without her knowing about it, wouldn't it?
Not really, no, I know. Not if it was consensual.
Well, there you go. There's a lesson learned here for everybody listening tonight. Because Niamh, there's a lesson out there for everybody. I think the days of taking photographs of yourself and your missus in bed together, or your missus is in the nip.
Oh, they're gone. Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. You just have to be careful. I mean, it doesn't. Look, it mightn't even be your ex-partner that does it. It could be one of his mates who gets into his phone. It could be anything. Doing it for a laugh, but it's not funny, But I just think in this situation, we're forgetting about one really important person here, or a couple of really important people. The mistress's family. They're completely innocent in all this. Her husband. Can you imagine the abuse that poor man would have gotten in work? Oh, so your wife on it, how much is she charging now? I mean, that can drive people, and if she had kids, the internet, they might have gotten it removed from that site. But, internet doesn't forget things. If they had kids, they could find them. So there's a lot of extra damage, and maybe that's where the judge was being harsh, because maybe there's victim impact statements. You just don't know. And maybe the husband took it really badly. Maybe the marriage is broken up, which she should have been sleeping with a married man. But that could have been, for all we know, 10 years ago, before she met her husband. We don't actually know when the pictures were sent, how, as Stephen said, how old they are. And the point here is that this could all have happened before this present relationship. And now this man, who's innocent in everything, could be going through hell over this.
Well, look, listen, I appreciate all your comments in relation to this. I have to go into the news. Before I go into the news, by the way, to all four of you, very quickly, I don't know whether you've seen the picture of the bin with the shells on it. Anybody seen that?
No.
I've seen that,
yeah. On the news.
Ireland's latest waste of money. God only knows how much these stupid trays cost that probably can hold about 10 bottles or cans. Will be used to put cigarettes out in, and people just to throw their wrappers on, or iron seagulls to come down and pull apart.
Oh, you're talking about the bottle holders on the bin.
Yeah. So we figure that's the latest stupid idea by the Irish government and waste of money by the Irish government. The whole purpose of it, by the way, is to stop people rummaging, because there's a whole new fad now.
Oh, yeah.
Of people rummaging through bins looking for bottles and cans and then leaving the litter all over the road. And my argument is, why are you pandering to people doing that? Why don't you just increase the fine for littering and actually arrest them and charge them and fine them? Anyway.
No, then they'd have to spend money on litter wardens, and they're not going to do that.
Yeah, but the majority of the people are homeless, and the majority of people then wouldn't be put into prison anyway, because there's nowhere to put them.
There's no room.
Yeah, give them a sweeping brush. I don't know.
But plenty of countries in Europe are doing the same thing, and they actively encourage it. And there isn't a litter problem.
But a gust of wind surely will.
For homeless people to make money.
Yeah, but surely a gust of wind, Stephen, will just blow all the things all over the place.
That's a fair point too.
Sorry, Jerry. Jerry, what are you saying, Jerry?
Why are people picking bottles in the first place? Because they're desperate, they need the money. So why the government? So that's absolutely disgraceful. That's the government admitting people need money. We're going to give them 15 cents off of it.
Yes and no. Some homeless people are doing it in town, but there are organised gangs who are doing it as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to get into the ins and outs of that, but we all know exactly what I'm talking
about.
They're
in the minority. Oh, I know that. No, they're in the minority. No.
I don't think so. I don't think they're in the minority. They're going through town in the middle of the night doing it to all the bins.
Well, I was out in Bray the other night, right? And the poor man, and he was homeless. He's out in Bray all the time. And he was looking through the bins. And in Bray now, I don't know if you've been out there recently, they have these big tartan bins out there now. And he opened every one of them. And God love him, he had a picker going in and looking. And he had a little Dunn's bags going around, picking up all the empty bottles. That man needed the money.
I do get that, but I just don't think this shelf thing is the answer. Anyway, look, I am going to be asking people after the break, because I think it's a silly thing to do and a silly waste of money and maybe a silly little law. And I actually don't like the bottle return scheme anyway. I think it's a load of nonsense. I think it's double taxation, because we're already paying for refuse charges in this country. I don't know why we have to pay again. And all this kind of, and anyway, because a lot of people don't bring back the bottles. 19 million quid's worth hasn't been claimed, I think, in the first year of it or something like that. So a lot of people are just not bothering. They're just throwing them in the bin. So here's the thing. I'm going to try and think after the break I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, can you think of any more stupid laws we should bring in? We're thinking of stupid laws. We need stupid laws. You know, yeah, like or not even stupid things. The bike shed, for example, that was stupid. You know, Children's Hospital probably goes on the stupid list at this stage, to be honest with you. Not that the principle behind it is very good, but certainly the stupidity of the whole thing. So we're just looking for stupidness in Ireland. E-voting machines. Do you remember them?
They'll probably bring back the window tax.
Oh, the window tax. Yeah, there you go.
That'll be next.
Yeah, a window tax. By
if
the way,
you've got too many windows in your house, you have to move because it's too big for you.
Yeah. Did you know when you go into town, right, there's some buildings that have no windows in them, like, for example, the Central Bank. You look, the windows are missing and they have brickwork instead. And the reason was it was to stop them paying window tax.
Yeah. That's why the really old cottages of famine time, lots of them died from carbon monoxide because they had no ventilation because they couldn't afford the window tax.
That's mad, isn't it? Anyway, look.
So all the turf was poisoning them.
Just thought I'd throw it in there. Listen, Margaret, Niamh, Jerry, Stephen, thank you very much indeed. After the break, I'm going to be looking for the stupidest ideas we've ever come up with in this country. I personally think this is a stupid idea. I understand the point Stephen and Jerry are making. I don't want to see anybody, homeless looking for money. We shouldn't be in that situation in the first place. This is not the answer, by the way. I don't think this is the answer. The seagulls are going to be pulling them all over the place. The wind is going to blow them all over the place. It'll just end up a mess. Anyway, I'm looking for more stupid ideas. Or if you can think of a good stupid idea, a stupid law to bring in, a silly little law to bring in. I don't know, girls with hoopy earrings. I mean, I would make that illegal if I was the Taoiseach. Yeah, AJ. The big hoopy earrings. Yeah. Or the cones on their head. The cones, those little cone things they pull their ponytail through. It's like a cone. Yeah, like gold and silver. Now, they'd make them illegal. Yeah, or fake tan, yellow fake, the orangey fake tan. I'd make that illegal too.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.